Hello and welcome to Business Morning. And it's the last trading day of September. I guess now we're looking on to October. What will it bring? But let's get to how your money performed yesterday. Trading activities on the Nigerian exchange started the week on a positive trajectory as investors recorded 115 billion naira boost in the trade there, spurred by renewed buying interest in the banking and oil and gas sectors. That pushed the market capitalization of listed equities to about 90 trillion from 89.99 trillion in the previous session. Likewise, the benchmark all-share index climbed by 244.51 points, by 0.17% to close at 142,377 basis points. They have a 0.17% there. We're back at 90 trillion with 155 billion there. Well, let's see the trading volume there for yesterday. We see it was all in the green, compared to the previous trade. 383.94 million units was traded, valued at 11.61 billion. That was yesterday. 28,114 deals. So we see bullish sentiment to start off this shortened trading week for September. But guess what? We have a public holiday on Wednesday, and definitely investors will get a break before we resume trades on Thursday and Friday. Let's get a check on oil market now. See, oil prices slipped as expectations of another production boost from OPEC Plus and the restart of crude exports from Iraq's Kurdistan region. That weighed on market sentiment, and we see Brent crude delivery for November. That was trading at $67.36 a barrel, 0.90% down, and a bigger drop for WTI crude. It did try to make a move to $65 per barrel, but we've lost that level now, trading at $62.83, 0.98% down. That's for WTI. So we're still seeing that range trade right there. That's talking about the oil market this morning. Definitely we'll keep tracking to see what plays out. Have a couple of trading days this week. We'll see if oil can actually try and break to that psychological resistance level of $70 per barrel. We'll see a lot of pressure at $69. That's for Brent crude right there. So that's the color there for the market. Well, let's look at other stories now. In a bold move towards digital transformation, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria have officially phased out cash transactions in its operations and adopted a digital payment scheme. The decision marks a major shift in how fees and services are handled across Nigeria's airports, aimed at increasing transparency, reducing leakages, and improving convenience for travelers and stakeholders alike.
We want to make our process seamless, and as it is, we are also trying to block leakages. So right now, our processes, all our payment revenue points that comes directly to FAN has to be done through card. So rather than a cash process, that itself is fraught with a lot of challenges. So what we are doing is aligning with global standards and ensuring that we run our airports in a seamless and a green way. That's why we're going cashless today.
All right, so definitely we're getting reactions there from billionaire businessman Mr. Femi Otedola on the recent claims of subsidy fraud there. And he did put out a strong statement. He says, "My attention has been drawn to a mischievous and malicious publication written by one Umar Sani, a former special advisor as former President Namadi Sambo, attempting to twist facts and drag his name into disputes and allegations of complicity in the subsidy fraud. His insinuations are false, baseless, and a shameless attempt to pander to lies and rewrite history. Let me set the record straight for the overall benefit of the discerning public. On the matter of Zenon Petroleum and Gas Limited, he said it was wholly an importer and trader of diesel with a market share in excess of 90%. Never traded in premium malt spirit, and as such could not have claimed for subsidy under the Petroleum Subsidy Fund scheme. Diesel had been long deregulated even before the adoption of the PSF and did not fall under petroleum products to be claimed under the PSF regime. Premium motor spirit was the only product that was eligible for claim under the Petroleum Subsidy Fund scheme in a bid by the government to make the product available and affordable to all and sundry. It is therefore shocking that someone like Umar Sani, who has occupied a position of authority and responsibility, could display such ignorance of basic industry facts in public. I view this as either mischief and taking advantage of the uneducated public, or a blatant display of gross ineptitude. If diesel did not fall under the subsidy regime, how can Umar Sani then accuse Zenith Petroleum and Gas Limited of impropriety under the subsidy regime? I was a member of President Goodluck Jonathan's economic team. I'm the one who first alerted the president of the monumental fraud being perpetrated by economic saboteurs in the PSF scheme. When he called the then Minister of Petroleum, she denied it. My strong determination to stop the economic malaise and bleeding, I called Senator Bukola Saraki and reported the fraud to him. He took it to the floor of the Senate, and from there, the House of Representatives began its investigation. These statements are alive, and my assertions above can be corroborated if necessary. If I was complicit in subsidy theft, would I be the one to raise the alarm and blow the whistle on myself? That alone should question the motive of Umar Sani for his most recent publication on the matter. When it had become public industry knowledge that I was the whistleblower on the subsidy fraud, some of the perpetrators decided to fight back by using the House Committee on the Probe, headed by Honorable Farouk Lawan, who tried to indict me without any basis. As they always say, it's only natural for corruption to fight back. The House Committee on the Subsidy Probe was now being manipulated by the subsidy fraudsters and thereby turning the probe panel into an extortion racket. When the harassment and blackmail became incessant, in my person, I petitioned the authorities and worked with the Department of State Security as a DSS in a sting operation. The money was provided by the DSS, duly marked and handed over to me under security surveillance. I then gave it to Farouk Lawan in line with the sting operation that is on record. To twist that carefully documented operation into an indictment against me is laughable and only exposes the ignorance of Mr. Sani. You may be aware that the Honorable Lawan was subsequently convicted and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment for bribery. The facts are very clear and public. According to the businessman, he implores the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to release the full Igboje Aigimokwede report on subsidy fraud, as Nigerians deserve to know the truth. It is on record that the presidency at the time called on late EFCC Chairman Ibrahim Lamade to halt the investigation and let the report be made public to the real subsidy thieves so that they can be unmasked. The allegations and insinuations about my involvement with AMCON are again a demonstration of mischief and ineptitude on the part of Umar Sani. I wonder why someone who twists publicly available information to miseducate the populace. I have never hidden the fact that I suffered financial losses from the global economic meltdown of 2008, resulting in a huge debt exposure to the Nigerian financial services industry. The loans were sold to AMCON. I, in turn, gave up my assets worth 100 billions of naira to settle my obligations under a court-ordered settlement. It is on record that AMCON itself publicly commended my approach and told other debtors to follow my example. Court records are there for anyone seeking the truth to investigate, and AMCON officials from that time are also alive today to confirm the truth. According to the businessman, I even addressed this matter in my book, Making It Big, which was recently published and released to the public. Because of these deliberate lies and unfounded allegations, I'm instructing my lawyers to file a 1 billion naira libel suit against Umar Sani. People must learn that reputations are not to be toyed with for cheap propaganda and to serve as a deterrent for other mischief makers in the future. I will go to every extent that this is achieved. To Mr. Sani and others who peddle these half-baked stories, go and read my book, Making It Big. Study the facts and stop disgracing yourselves with ignorance. That's according to the businessman. I have nothing to hide, and I have always acted in the interests of truth and accountability. Those who benefited from subsidy fraud know themselves. I will not sit back and allow falsehood to be written into history. Strong words there from billionaire businessman Mr. Femi Otedola. They're reacting to allegations of subsidy fraud. Well, we've been taking those stories, and definitely we'll keep updating on that as it happens. Well, to our discussion now, we're moving along to what's playing out in Nigeria's agriculture industry. We see global pineapple concentrate market that was valued at about $1.2 billion in 2023, projected to hit $2.1 billion by 2032, reflecting a steady CAGR of 6.2%. This growth is fueled by rising consumer demand for healthier beverages and natural food ingredients, alongside expanding applications of pineapple concentrates across industries such as beverages, bakery, and dairy. So we have Dr. Segun Alabina, the CEO, Otedola Nigeria Limited, to bring us up to speed on what's playing out in that market. It's great to have you on the show, sir. Good morning.
Good to have you too.
Fantastic. So definitely looking at the data there, that's a huge market. Expect to hit about $2.1 billion by 2032. And we're talking about the pineapple value chain.
Yes.
There. So I'm wondering, in my mind, how do you plug into this as an investor?
Okay. Tomorrow is Independence Day.
Right.
And we're talking about rebuilding Nigeria through investment in agriculture. And one area where this can be channeled to is pineapple. You know, we used to believe that pineapple is just sobo and the fruit alone. But from what you just read now, you discover that there's huge value chain when it's come to pineapple. Like I've always said, in pineapple you can make clothing. In pineapple you can make shoe. In pineapple you can make biofuel that can even power aircraft. In pineapple you can make briquettes like charcoal that can power industrial boilers. So there are a lot of things that you can generate from pineapple. It has gone beyond just drinking juice or drinking sobo. There are value chain, and not just only in pineapple, in all other agricultural produce as well. And this is where Nigeria or investor can key in. You discover that pineapple cannot grow everywhere. But as God has positioned Nigeria, at times I say Nigeria is like a garden of Eden, because everything you are looking for in any part of the world, you can find them in Nigeria. And right now, I will tell you that Nigeria is the best place to invest your money, especially when it's come to agriculture, because we are talking about an increase in unemployment. Through agriculture, we can solve this problem. One produce, pineapple, if either pineapple or cassava, any one of these can solve the problem of unemployment in Nigeria. Look at the value chain. Because the employment agriculture can create, no other sector can do that.
Yeah, because we've talked a lot about, the youths, trying to get them to look into, agriculture, shift attention, from what the youths normally look at and say, you know what, get into this value chain. There's a lot of money, just as the data is showing there. But I know you specialize in, pineapple, but you also mentioned cassava. And I'm wondering if you're looking to, expand to...
Okay, thank you so much. We are not going into cassava. Okay. In fact, as a matter of fact, when we started this agricultural business, we didn't start with pineapple. We started with cassava, corn, vegetables, watermelon, pepper. But in all of this, I can tell you without missing word, that going through all this experience, no one has given us a much return and reliable and profitability as pineapple. In fact, as a matter of fact, that was somebody was asking me yesterday, okay, some group of bankers came to the office yesterday, they were asking that, what led you into the pineapple? And I said, okay, you want to hear a story? I said, okay, no problem. I said, there was a particular year that we had about 40 hectares of cassava and maize. And in that particular year, cow ate everything. But as a matter of fact, I was under the tree that day and I was looking up that we've lost everything. What next? What is the next step to take now, because you see, when you go to your farm and you discover that everything is gone, and the police are asking you, where's the cow you have arrested, to show that, because without arresting any cow, how can we prove?
No cow at the scene of the crime.
No cow have been arrested, but they can see their food, they can see everything there. Now, I was under 3 days and I was just thinking, and a call came in. I can't forget this. A call from somebody that I don't even know, that I've never met. And said, oh, hey, somebody gave me your number. I discovered that you were into agriculture. Please, can you supply us pineapple? I didn't even say, oh, pineapple, where, how? I said, yes. And that is how we began. We started by supplying pineapple with 10 kg. From 10 kg, we moved to 20 kg. From 20 kg, we moved to 1 ton. From 1 ton, we moved to trailer. Today, now, Otedola has the largest pineapple farm estate in Africa. And now we are going into the value chain, like you mentioned earlier, by producing pineapple fruit concentrate. The demand for that alone around the world is mind-blowing. This pineapple fruit concentrate alone, we employ nothing less than 10,000 Nigerians.
Well, I'm sure some people wonder how does the concentrate work?
Okay, you see, every company in Nigeria that is producing fruit juice, they need concentrate to produce. But as it were, as at now, all these companies are importing concentrate into the country. So you see where we are losing value. But by producing concentrate, converting pineapple from just ordinary pineapple into the concentrate, now you are generating more forex, because you will be supplying not the local one, you will also be exporting. Now the money the local producers are using to buy pineapple concentrate, now that one will stay in the country. You see how the country is being developed by industrialization. Because if we are just all about eating, consuming nation, we can't develop, we can't create employment. So Nigerians will move from consuming nation into an industrialization, and that is what Otedola is doing. To build a nation where people trust, where their investments speak for them, and that is what we are doing. And mind you, not just only because every end of one process is beginning of another. So as you are generating pineapple fruit concentrate, the waste that you can say, okay, let us throw this away, is useless. Now, that waste, you call waste, we are not going to be using that to produce pineapple biofuel or briquettes. Now, it means the zero waste from beginning to the end, because the end of one is the beginning of another. So, and we can do this. Nigeria is a great country. Right.
I find it quite interesting, the story you told about when you were asked to supply pineapple. And I know a very popular businessman did say that if you're asked if you can do something or provide or supply something, even though you don't know how to do it.
Don't say no.
Don't say no. You just say yes.
Don't say no. Just
and
say
you're going
yes.
to find out how
to do it.
Fantastic. All right. So you said you're looking to make, Nigeria the pineapple hub.
That's
the
correct.
world, at this time. And making hubs is not that easy.
Yes.
What would you say is the process here, that you're looking at?
All right.
To make this happen?
Currently, like I said earlier, that we have the largest pineapple farm estate, not just only in Nigeria, even in Africa. And they're looking at this huge demand for pineapple. Currently, we have demand from Asia, from Arab country, but we cannot deliver, because even we in the country, we've not satisfied the demand in the local market. So the advantage we are giving to people is to be able to achieve this dream of making Nigeria the exporter of pineapple, not just pineapple, but every value chain in pineapple, is to give people opportunity to become pineapple farm owners in the Otedola pineapple farm estate. You don't even have to be there. You can be in UK, you can be in America, and you can have this farm in Nigeria, and then Otedola will be managing it for you. And then you just sit down and be expecting your rent every year. Because I always say something, if you build house, it's good to build out to invest in real estate. But most of the time, you discover that when you build house in Nigeria, it's just like you are in Lagos, you build house in Owerri, in the village in Owerri. Maybe you just go to the village once in a year, maybe Christmas period. Maybe you just sleep maybe for 5 days. Now, if you have house in Nigeria, you're just living for 5 days, and at the end, at times, even the tenants will not even pay you money. If you buy land that you are not using, you have to keep on working on those land because you don't want Omonile to take the land away from you. But in Pineapple, the land belongs to you, and it's increasing in value. Because if you go to, after this show, go to market, go and ask for a price of pineapple, you will be surprised. Pineapple, but this is.
I think I bought one recently. I think about 1,000 something. It was a small, just a little pineapple.
1,000. That must have been maybe about 7 months ago. If you go now, that small one, you'll be asking you to come and pay 4,000 naira or 3,000 naira because the demand is increasing, and because of another thing, health benefits. Health benefit, because see, pineapple is the queen of fruits. And I'm telling you that what the return you can get today, you can't get it anywhere. So we are encouraging people that instead of you to go and buy one land that you're not using, or to go and invest in one thing that is not generating a residual income to you, why don't you put that money in Pineapple Farm Estate? And then sit and let your money work.
I'm sure, some investors will be wondering, okay, fine, I invest in the pineapple farm. What title do I get?
All right. Now, let me explain the modus operandi for you. Now, individual Pineapple Farm Estate, we've developed it. Now, we are selling per plot and per acre. Acre is 6 plots of land. Now, the current value of one plot is 99,999 naira per plot. And then if you times that in 6 places, it will give you the price about 17 points, almost 18 million, 17,999,994 naira. That is what an acre will give you. Though we have started a promo about 5 days ago for the sake of Independence Day, because we want to give back to Nigeria, to make it an attractive way for people to invest back at home. We have tracking record. The individual is almost a decade in this business, and we are still scaling, we are still moving forward. So when you buy, the document that comes with that is deed of assignment, registered survey, farm management agreement. The documentation is 350,000 naira per plot. But a promo is going on now for the price of the land. So instead of you to pay almost 3 million naira for one plot, you are now paying 2.3 million. That is 2,300,000 naira per plot.
So I'm imagining that the farm as a whole has some kind of global CFO. Now,
that's a very good question. Now, we're already working on the global CFO because it is better. If you are doing the CFO one by one, it costs more. So, and within a short period of time, because we're already working on that, we have global CFO, which means the developer will just do the transfer from developer to individual who is part of this pineapple farm estate.
Right.
And if you are buying one acre, which is 6 plots, so the price as at today is 13.6 Independence promo. So, and we have started about 5 days ago, and it's going to stop on the 5th of October. Now, somebody can say, okay, I'm just seeing you for the first time. How do I trust you? How do I know that what you're saying is true? I want to wait until I see what you're talking about. It's good to do findings. It's good to do your findings.
Do your own research.
Do your own research
right.
very well before you put in. That being said, if you don't pay any commitment fee for this promo, any moment from 6th of October, we are going back to the normal price, which is about 3 million. So the only thing you can do is that you can pay you can make a commitment fee for this promo now, and it is 100% money back guarantee. So if you have been to the farm, you see every time you say, oh no, I don't want to go ahead. there's money back, 100% money back guarantee. You get your money back and then...
Money back guarantee, that sounds good.
Yeah.
For, investors that are not sure. But, some will be wondering, how do we, contact you
now,
to make this happen? Now,
for you to contact Otedola, you can contact us this number, 081 164 64 307. Let me say it again. 081 164 64 307. And you can also reach us on our WhatsApp, which is 081 that I mentioned earlier, 16464 or 09155359764, or on Instagram at Davidola_farms. You can also send us email at info@davidolafarms.com.
All right, so definitely I'd like to get your parting words now. Your outlook for the industry. Some also wonder about the risk of climate change and all of that. So break it down for us. What are you seeing in the future for this business?
Okay, like I said earlier, Nigeria is a pleasant place. If you look at weather, we have always have a good weather. But that being said, I always said something. I said, if somebody will do insurance, life insurance, not because they want to die tomorrow. So, and we take people's investment so with a sense of responsibility. So in Davidola we have borehole. So if there is any climatic change or condition that does not that is going to affect the well-being of the plant, because one thing that pineapple likes most is water. So we have borehole in the water. And another thing, people always ask, oh, what is the guarantee? Our farm is also insured. So there's guarantee. And another thing, cow doesn't eat pineapple. Pineapple can survive any kind of weather. I have proved it. If you take if you see where pineapple is being planted, just put fire there and wait. In the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, as soon as that pineapple receives water, it's going to come back alive. So it's
mostly indestructible.
Indestructible.
At this point. Yeah. All right, thank you so much for helping us break it down. Definitely, we have investors always looking for where to put money and multiply money. Thank you so much for breaking it down, Dr. Segun Alabi, the CEO of Davidola Nigeria Limited. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now let's get a check on the commodities market. Now let's see what's playing out with oil. Let's see what's playing out with most of our basic exports there. Joining us now, Mr. Bismarck Urani is the MD CEO of Financial Derivatives Company. Great to have you on the show, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So, according to your data there, we're seeing PMS prices on a downtrend at this point. Help us break it down, sir. What are we seeing there?
I think it's interesting that at this time when there's all of this cacophony about Pegasus and all of that, that the Dangote refinery has gone along with its promise to bring down the price of PMS to 841 naira. That is significant. And at the time when global oil prices were actually increasing before that of today, it's and that they've been able to deliver it almost across the country, even though not the same price, 841 in some places and 850 in some other places. But it's interesting, and that will bring down the pressure on Nigerians generally. Not just the price, but the availability, which is important.
But what's happening with diesel, though? Diesel, that one stayed flat so far. We're not seeing any action there. We know most, businesses use a lot of diesel.
Yes, but you see, the PMS is more widely used than diesel across, both for transporting, for small generators, and all sorts of things. So, in all, PMS utilization in Nigeria is about 45 million liters a day, while that of diesel is sharply lower than that. But anyway, they're all well as well.
All right, so let's break down, what's also playing out in the global oil market there. We're still seeing that range trade. Brent acts like he wants to break back above $70 per barrel, but we see it get hammered back down. It seems it's all about the output decisions from OPEC.
Yeah, actually, there are three things. There's one, the output, and two is what do you call it, OPEC decision, but also the fact that today Israel and the United States have announced a plan with a peace plan in the Gaza area. So, if that happens, generally speaking, and the Arab countries have come behind it, and the ceasefire kicks into place, you will find that the global escalation of risks will actually reduce, and then we shall begin to see oil trend downward. So, as Nigerians, we should come to actually accept the reality that the price of oil is going to go downwards and more towards $60 than going higher to $70 a barrel. It's important that we discuss this now because the budget process for 2026 is at hand. And last year, this time, we went out, had a production target of 2.2 million barrels. We had a price target of about $75 a barrel, only to find out in reality that we produced only about 1.4 average, and that the average price for Brent was as low as almost $68 a barrel. So this is a reality check, and that we should accept that, and then cut our coat according to our cloth, and therefore come to terms with this reality that, yes, we've done a lot of work, the economy is turned the corner, it's turning the corner, but then we should not get carried away, and we should know immediately that there's still some hard work to be done.
All right, so Mr. Ronnie, definitely going back to what we've seen play out, with the Dangote refinery, with Nupeng, with Dapman, most of the oil marketers at this point, and the FG, federal government weighing in on the matter, and we're seeing fuel prices still trending, downward at this point. Would you say the market is that mature at this point, has not swayed by what's playing out with the elephants?
No, I think what's happening here, people have gone beyond the rhetoric and the sentiment of strikes and industrial action. Industrial actions are natural consequence of business. But we must understand that there's what we call the critical national infrastructure. On August 3rd, 1981, President Reagan came out, and when the air traffic controllers in the US actually shut down the airspace, I remember, I think I was a, and they closed down the space. He got the Air Force controllers to take over the space and fired all the air traffic controllers. In fact, I know people who had to travel to Canada to fly out of the United States. He took that position because the airspace of the United States is considered as a critical infrastructure. For Nigeria, the refining space, especially this single train refinery, is critical infrastructure and cannot be left to the vagaries of industrial relations disputes and all. So the government, yes, intervened. Government called parties to resolve the issues. But under no circumstances can we allow critical national infrastructure to be threatened because of that. I think that is the most important lesson that we have to learn from this, because apart from the investment, apart from the fact that this is creating jobs and it is linkage effect with all other industries, and not only critical infrastructure for Nigeria, but the whole of West and Central Africa, we cannot allow this to be a subject of negotiation of unions. That it has to be hived off, and people have to know what national interest is and what commercial interest is. National interest is that Nigeria cannot be allowed to be crushed or frustrated or sabotaged, if I use the word, because of negotiations. Those should be taken off the table. The refineries should be allowed to produce, and they're doing that. They're bringing down prices and should be allowed to invest so that other investors who are coming to share in what they call the critical infrastructure space should be encouraged to do that without a fear that they could be actually strangled or strangulated by all sorts of interests.
All right, so I guess we'll keep tracking at this point, and also checking in on the prices and checking in on the consumers as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Bismarck Ruwani, MD/CEO, Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you, Ladi, for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we hear more on Nigeria's economy as we age more at this point with our latest independence. That's in a moment. Just stay with us. And on the sidelines of the 80th session of the UN General Assembly, we see Governor Umaru Bago of Niger has outlined the state's targets of providing the needed foundation for Nigeria's drive for food security for its population. An event organized by the state, Governor Bago also presented the new Niger Vision 2055, which is a 30-year development plan going forward. Take a listen.
Global leaders, investors, policymakers, government officials and members of the Nigerian diaspora are at this high-level event to showcase Niger State to the world. Present is the governor, his wife and other dignitaries. Taking place on the sidelines of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, it is meant to showcase the state's potential as a key investment hub in Nigeria.
For Niger State, it is an opportunity to share our journey, listen to new ideas, and strengthen partnerships around human capital, agricultural transformation, and investment.
The goodwill messages emphasize the uniqueness of Niger State.
Our IGR, the internally generated revenue, have changed. If you look at the growth index that was recently released by the National Bureau for Statistics, you see that Niger State have gone up from about 25th to about 6th in the ladder of states that are doing very well.
It is one of the inspirational states that we've been looking at, both externally. You hear a lot of inquiries from investors about Niger State, and also internally within Nigeria. And for all the investors that are here, Niger State is definitely a place to put your money in.
Together, we can bridge the gaps in human capital, strengthen food systems, build industries that will not only uplift Niger State, but also contribute to Nigeria's national prosperity and Africa's economic resilience.
The governor makes clear one of the state's key targets.
We have the best climate for cropping, best climate for livestock, and best climate for agriculture. Nigeria spends over $20 billion to import food. And we are poised to provide succor to Nigerians in terms of crop production, food production.
Already spoken about
the event featured two high-level panel discussions on human capital development and investments, as well as agricultural transformation. The state also signed some memoranda of understanding with some investors, all in line with the vision of Niger State towards improved livelihoods, a sustainable economy, urban renewal with rural transformation and good governance.
And as Nigeria marks another Independence Day tomorrow, the economic landscape presents a mix of cautious optimism and pressing questions. With inflation slowing, the Naira showing signs of stability, and Monetary Policy Committee easing interest rates, attention now shifts to the microeconomy. The big question is, how will these policy shifts translate to the daily realities of households, small businesses, and consumers across the country? Join me now. We have Dr. Josh Banfo, partner, head transfer price and partner and head transfer pricing, economic advisory services, Anderson, Nigeria. Good to have you on the show. A mouthful there.
That's right.
Great to have you, sir.
Good to have you.
Yes, and you know, definitely we're seeing data that looks good.
Yep.
You know, in 2025, we're seeing the Naira stable at sub 1.5, foreign reserves $42.23 billion, inflation 20.12%, the last reading, Q2 GDP 4.23% from about 3-something percent. Then the NGX, the capital, the stock market, are still around all-time highs, 142,000.
Yep.
So it looks like a perfect storm for the average man to, you know, feel some relief. You know, the consumer, you know, at this point. But I don't know if that's the true picture.
Definitely, I don't think that would be a realistic expectation to have, because there's always a lag effect when an economy starts stabilizing and when it translates to actual impact in the pockets of the masses and actually alleviating people from poverty, right? But it's a good sign. You know, it's just like the economy was extremely ill. They took the economy to an emergency ward. Now the patient has been stabilized, but that patient has to start walking and before it starts running, all right? So it's a whole process. The good news is, if you see what we went through the past 2 years, when the current government took office sometime in June 2023, with those two bold policies, right? Liberalization of the foreign exchange rate, removal of fuel subsidies, and ensuring that we don't over-subsidize when we cannot sustain it. Those were bold policies, but there was an expectation that in the short term, they were going to be very painful, right? And I think we've gone through those stormy weathers. You know, if you look at 2023, 2024, inflation as of December 2024 was as high as 38.4. One aspect that helped us in terms of the data is the rebasing, and we shouldn't forget about that. Some people are really doubtful whether these numbers really reflect actual performance of the economy. But there's a good reason for rebasing. So because of the rebasing, when you look at the CPI, inflation dropped from 38.4 to 24.5 just in January. That's a 10% drop. But the good news is, since then, you know, there was a slight volatility January to March, but there's been a steady decrease over the course of the period. Now we are 20.12. So that is a good sign. With that decrease, now central bank can confidently pivot away from tightening the monetary policy to curb inflation to easing of the monetary policy rate, so that cost of borrowing is cheaper. Businesses can now borrow in order to expand or start new businesses. That is when you start feeling the impact. But it's just too recent. You know, they just brought the monetary policy rate down 23rd September. So you cannot expect any impact today. You understand me? The question is, are we going to have sustained inflation decline all through the year, so that central bank can continuously reduce the monetary policy rate to a level where cost of borrowing is cheaper and more projects are feasible that we can then borrow and invest? That is when. So
what do you think this government can, you know, do now, and the, you know, economic leaders, you know, at this point? What can they do so that, you know, in the short term, maybe sometime in 2026, the man on the street can start to feel some kind of relief?
So clearly, even there has been some proposal from either the World Bank or IMF that, look, because of the unintended adverse impact of those two major policies, there was a need for some targeted support for those at the very low income, right? Question is implementation. You know, how do you effectively implement it so that it goes to the right targeted people? So that recognition is there. So I believe that should still be done, because it's going to take a while for them to have an impact. Secondly, on the fiscal side of things, the monetary policy, we are seeing good results, right? Exchange rate has stabilized. As you rightly said, we've gone sub 1,500 for the first time in a long while. You understand me? You know, inflation is going down. They are now reducing monetary policy rates, so the interest rates will go down. So on the Central Bank of Nigeria side of things, the monetary side of things are looking good. Now let's come to a real sector. fiscal policy also has to have targeted interventions to ensure that some sectors are actually having a good feel of these good macroeconomic indicators. So, for example, agriculture sector, we need to have clear policies geared towards that, because that is where you're going to have diverse people, those in the rural areas as well as those in the urban areas, having a positive effect. On the industrial sector, that's the sector where they employ most people. What we see is that even though GDP growth rate for Q2 is 4.23 or whatever it is, and looks pretty high compared to what we've seen since 2015, 2016, clearly service sector has been the main driver. But service sector is for people like you and I. You understand me? It's not diverse enough. So we need to look at sectors that can actually employ those that are really impoverished, so that we can alleviate more people out of poverty.
Right, and definitely we're optimistic, at this point, even though we have some, caution, going forward. But we do hope for the very best, and we pray that we'll continue in this, trajectory, and even better.
Definitely.
More growth. More growth rate, going forward. We'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Josh Banfield, partner and head, transfer pricing, economic advisory services, Anderson, Nigeria. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much, Ogaladi, for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll head straight to the global space. That's in a moment. Just stay with us. We have Ini Jamaka with the details of what's playing out in the global economy. Good to have you, Ini.
Good to be here, Laddie. Thank you so much. Let's just go straight into it, and we start from the UK, where the economy grew 0.3%. Remember, yesterday, as part of the outlook for the week, we're expecting GDP. So 0.3% in the April to June period of this year, according to the National Statistics Office. Unrevised from the ONS initial estimate. So that's it. The economy in the United Kingdom grew 0.3% for that period. We move over to France, where inflation picked up on an acceleration in the services sector and smaller declines in energy prices, though it remained well below the European Central Bank's 2% target. Consumer prices in the euro area's second largest economy rose 1.1% from a year ago. This is in a September statement that was shared. And quickly move to currencies reacting to that threat of a shutdown, U.S. government shutdown. The deadline is today. We see that the U.S. dollar wobbled on Tuesday. Investors are braced for it. Meanwhile, the USD gained 0.49%. Of course, as the dollar depreciates, other currencies gain against it. And still coming from the United States, the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is supporting a one-year extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, that's AGOA, that trade initiative. It ends today, also expires today, September 30, but according to White House official, that will be extended by 1 year, and we'll see what happens even after that. And then we move to China. While the United States has introduced fees on that workers' visa, and that might be discouraging a lot of companies from bringing in expert trade, China has a new visa program, and it's aimed at attracting foreign tech talent, and it kicks off this week. A move seen to boost Beijing's fortunes in its geopolitical rivalry with Washington, as a new U.S. visa policy prompts would-be applicants to scramble for alternatives. Let's settle in China now. We have Ken Kao. He's an investor and global markets commentator. Joins us from Tokyo to share his thoughts on this. Hi, Ken. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So it does seem like China does the opposite of what the U.S. is doing, for instance, in this issue of the visa. And we've seen the not-so-friendly relationship when it comes to the trade tariffs. From where you stay, what do you observe in the movement of China, the trend of decision-making when it comes to trade, global trade?
Well, I think China is still pursuing a mercantilist trade policy. In other words, accumulating as much trade surplus as possible in the process building up its foreign exchange reserves. So China, in my opinion, is the main source of global trade imbalance. And I think Donald Trump is correct in identifying this problem, but I doubt that his approach will be successful, because what we've seen from the first trade war during the first Trump administration is that what China responded is by cheapening its currency, by undervaluing Chinese yuan to offset any increase in tariffs. So several years later, despite what the West has tried to achieve by correcting this trade imbalance, China is still running record trade surplus, and this imbalance is still persisting to this day.
So what do you think would be a long-term approach, especially for China, in handling the situation? Because it doesn't seem like President Donald Trump is going to relax in using tariff as an instrument.
I think ultimately what's going to correct this situation is not going to from the outside force. It's going to be from the Chinese leadership when they realize that they need to boost domestic consumption in order to create sustainable economic growth. That is when the change will happen. China has been talking about reducing its reliance on exports and boosting domestic consumption for years, but there's a very little traction in that area. I think one of the main problems is that the Chinese Communist Party needs to loosen its grip on the private sector and be willing to reduce the state role in the economy and have the consumption, private consumption, as a higher share of the Chinese economy. But the problem is that when they transition to domestic consumption, the Chinese state will have less foreign exchange reserves to invest abroad in projects like Belt and Road Initiative. So that weakens the role the Chinese state plays, but it will give Chinese consumers more purchasing power, and that will create less frustration for Western policymakers about this trade imbalance.
So Ken, you don't think that China is on the right path? Because we see something that looks like a scramble for the African market, both from the US and China. I don't think that's a way to go for China.
Well, I think China is doing a lot of things correct. I'm not denying everything they have done over the past 30, 40 years since they loosened the grip on the private market and Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up. But this model is just not sustainable. The Chinese consumers are not benefiting from the Chinese economy's growth. A lot of the growth, I would say the majority of the growth, accrues to the Chinese state. The Chinese state is doing very well. They're influencing policymakers around the globe, and they're building infrastructure projects around the globe. But those infrastructure projects are not really benefiting the local communities. They're hiring Chinese state-owned companies and Chinese engineers and construction workers to build these projects. And a lot of those projects, when it comes to a cost-benefit analysis, are not efficient. They're building bridges to nowhere, and in the process, a lot of foreign countries get heavily indebted because of these projects. So they have to pay interest on these projects, and their local residents are not really reaping the benefits because a lot of these projects are not supported by practical consideration. But a few local officials could still benefit by collaborating with the Chinese money. But the question is, does it benefit these foreign countries as a whole?
All right, Ken, thank you so much for that analysis. And of course, knowing that you are from China, so I guess we can understand where you're coming from. Ken Kao is an investor and global markets commentator.
Thank you.
All right, so Ladid, I think it's good to have a Chinese person give, well, hopefully an objective perspective. Right. So while we are celebrating the Belt and Road Initiative, which China is coming to Africa to improve infrastructural development, you know, the Chinese are not so happy. Right. They say it's not benefiting the Chinese, the local and the domestic economy. You know, so I mean, so while you guys are celebrating here in Africa and looking at how U.S. and China, they're trying,
trickling down to the micro.
I'm telling you,
right
so
there in China.
It's good to have the perspective of someone,
fantastic.
Yeah, who's feeling it back there on the other side of the continent, while we are receiving the infrastructure development funding here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy, for the details there of what's playing out in the global economy. All right, so that's the show today. Thanks so much for watching. We're back again at 1:30 with what's playing out with the markets that we track. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.